relaxing, ain't it? People watch me every night. Have that very hard how they have to. Will you bring me a drink, please?
Yeah, not a problem, man. Oh, Chad. Didn't see yous over there. Welcome back to another episode of Waydes World. Proudly brought to you by Wade himself, in accordance to the truth. Now everything said is based on individual experience or individual research. So thank you all for coming on and tuning on in. So from here on out, let's open the door to the next episode. Welcome to Waydes World. Kia ora whanau. Welcome to Waydes World. Welcome to Waydes World episode number, what are we at now? We're at about, actually, I think off the top of my head, I'm either at 39 or 40. So you guys that are coming up here, you're either cracking the next revolution or you're at the end of the cycle. So it's either 39 or 30 or 40. So to everyone out there, thank you guys for always listening and coming in and allowing me to do what I do in this world and talk a whole bunch of shit as I do at times. But today we have the Heartspace Podcast on. And I wanted to get these two lovely ladies on because as I see it, at the moment, I seem to be the only podcast in New Zealand that really is talking about the problems of today. And then when obviously the Heartspace Podcast approached me and asked me to speak on their podcast, I was happy enough to speak on there and realized that they were speaking all the same stuff that I was speaking. So the best thing to do is obviously I'll let them introduce themselves. They can give a little bit of a rundown of how they got here and how they got into the podcast and where Heartspace got onto. But yeah, the Heartspace Podcast, here you are, and I'm going to pass it over to Alicia first. So we've got Alicia and Jazz, so welcome them, and I will pass it over to Alicia. So Alicia, a little bit of introduction, please.
Cool, thanks, Wade. It's actually nice to be here after watching you on your journey for quite some time now at the Waydes World podcast. So kia ora, guys. My name is Alicia. Many of you know me as Auntie Janae. It's a weird alias name that came up, but basically, so I have been on this journey for quite a while now, be about 2.5 years, coming up 3 years. No, it'll be a bit longer than that actually. But yeah, so basically just my mum woke me up. 2020 happened. I'm going to do this real, I'm going to cut this down.
You're all good.
My mum started waking me up. I thought she was a bit nutty, but then things that she started saying was making sense. I started listening, and then 2020 happened. It was like, okay, all right, here we go. And since then, I haven't been able to shut up. I've basically been talking against the narrative since 2020. I've been very outspoken about it. It's like no matter what, I just couldn't shut up about it, and it was just I needed to get the message out there. I needed to create the awareness that something was terribly wrong, and we were all in freaking shit if people didn't stop and start looking at the reality of what is going on. So I started speaking out about it. Went to protests. I created a beautiful network of like-minded individuals, and like you, Wade. I met you outside Jacinda Ardern's office.
That's correct. That is correct.
And it's just been a beautiful journey all the same. It's been tough at times, but we're here now. I've managed to meet Jazz. Actually, Jazz and I have never met in person. We are still to yet meet in the flesh. But this beautiful woman, she hit me up quite a few months ago and asked if I would like to co-host this podcast with her. And so here I am.
You are in the middle of the Heartspace now, aren't you?
Yes, yeah.
And just one quick thing before we go over to you, Jazz. You enjoying it? you enjoying doing the podcast? You enjoying what you're doing in that sort of realm?
Yeah, I am. I actually never thought I'd be the type to be doing a podcast. It's never really been my thing, I'm going to be honest. However, this journey has been beautiful. It's taken me out of my comfort zone for real. Like, I was talking out about things, but to run a podcast is completely different dynamic in itself. But I'm absolutely loving it and appreciate this opportunity. Yeah.
Hey, you're more than welcome, and I appreciate you giving me your time and popping on as well. Like I said, time is the most important thing, so I appreciate you guys giving me your time as well. So we'll just quickly swap over to Jazz. Jazz, give us a little rundown of where you sort of started, and I know that where Heartspace started. It started off with another host originally. So I don't know if you want to give us maybe the backstory to that, or what happened there.
Yeah, sure. So first and foremost, thanks for having me on today. It's always a pleasure to link up with you. And hi to everyone out there. My name is Jasmine. I am the founder, I guess, of the Heartspace Podcast. But my awakening journey started back in 2020, like a lot of people. I think, I see just 2020 alone is your 2020 vision coming on. And so it all started within the first ever lockdown we had in New Zealand. The first night of the lockdown, I was sent the Fall of the Cabal documentary, and my husband was by his cousin, and he was watching it at first, and he was trying to get me to watch, and I was like, oh my God, this looks like rubbish. Took me a while to watch it, but I did, and we watched the whole three hours, and I can honestly say my whole perception of the world and everything around me changed. I did research, because one thing I loved about that documentary is that the researcher and the narrator encourages people to go down the rabbit hole and research what she says. And in 2020, we could do the research. It wasn't as censored as it is today. So I went down the rabbit hole and, fact-checked her work pretty much. And it turned out to be truthful. I found a lot of truth in it. I guess from there on, because I was such an introverted, shy person then, but I felt this calling within me to just start speaking out. So I just started jumping on Facebook and speaking out. And through that, I gained my confidence to speak on camera. And then that grew into my first ever YouTube channel called Awakening with Jazz. And so I interviewed a few people on that. It had good momentum going, but I got fearful because of what was happening to other truthers around me getting arrested. I actually interviewed Karen Brewer at one stage, and she got arrested. So I was like, okay, I actually pulled a lot of those videos down and kind of hid away for a bit, but I knew my journey wasn't done. I still felt this, I was still talking out on Facebook, but I knew what I wanted to do was connect with people, share their stories. And what I was finding, a lot of people that I was setting up to interview would either do the interview and then change their minds. So I would have to scrap the whole thing, or they'll cancel on me. So I was like, this isn't working. I need to find a co-host so we can just banter, someone reliable that knows, has a lot of passion with in regards to what's going on within the freedom movement. So I hit up my friend Elena. A lot of people may know her. She was what I consider one of the pioneers in New Zealand to start speaking out. But unfortunately, we got 2 episodes in, and she, she had some health issues and in regards to her baby. So that's when I reached out to Alicia here, and we were just acquaintances really on Facebook, but I saw that she had a fire in her belly, and she wasn't afraid to speak out, and that's kind of what I needed. So I hit her up, and our journey has moved to where it is now, and it's just been great. Like that we've connected with so many like-minded people like yourself, Wade, and a lot of other guests that we've had on our show, and we've explored topics that are really important to us and don't necessarily get discussed in the mainstream narrative. And that's why it's so important, like with the work you're doing, Wade, and ourselves, is to continue these conversations, continue to educate people. So, you know, we're penetrating that dense narrative that's out there, that fearful narrative, I should say. But yeah, I love where we're at now. I love the journey that we've been on, and it's just going to keep getting bigger and better from here.
Yeah.
Me or you?
All right, Jazz. No, thank you for that. And look, it's been a journey, and I've been watching, you know, since you guys first got me onto the Heartspace podcast. I've been watching your guys' journey very, very closely, and you know, I'm proud of everything that you guys are doing. It's huge what you guys are doing, and I completely understand what you say about you know, the people getting arrested and things like that. You know, early on in 2020, you know, I had police arriving at my doorstep at 6 o'clock in the morning, internal affairs arriving at my doorstep at 6:30 in the morning, you know, trying to tell me what I can and can't say. One thing I did though was just make sure I never recorded anything. I never posted anything online because I didn't want to put fear into the people out there and say, hey, you know, kind of like what happened to you is what I didn't want to put onto everyone else. So I held those on my own, took them on the chin myself, and kept on walking my line. But with the Heartspace podcast, the name, where does the name, obviously we all know it's about the heart space and about, you know, what goes on in the heart space, but what is the meaning of the name, you know, for you, and for both of you?
I really have to give credit to Elena to the name, because I was steering towards something with the word awakening in it. I think I was clinging on to my old YouTube channel, but she said that's a bit obvious, and it's been done. You know, everyone knows what the Great Awakening is essentially, and we wanted to be versatile with our subject matters that we speak on. So if we wanted to speak about something that isn't kind of in regards to just the awakening, we could expand. So that's where we thought about, what about something to do with the heart? And then I hit her back with, what about the heart space? And then it was originally the Heart Space with Alicia and Jazz, but then we shortened it down to podcast. And it's just a place like we like to say that it's a safe space where we can express like our truth and just be authentic. And I feel like we've successfully done that. I feel like a lot of our guests come on and they just spill their guts to us, because I feel like we've got this nurturing, vibe that we give off too. And we're very attentive with our guests. And that's what we like to encourage too.
Yeah, no, I see that through what you've done, through watching all your interviews. It's something that I've noticed with you as well, is that people tend to just release what they say. You know, I noticed early on with myself and doing Waydes World, it was very hard to. Well, first things first, it was hard to get people on because you're not famous enough to have someone on. So. That was the first problem that you face is that, you know, you're not, and then when everyone says that you're not famous enough yet, you're kind of like, well, did you share my shit? Did you share my shit? Because that's the only way I'm going to get my shit out there, you know, like it's a double-edged sword.
That is so relatable. Like, just like, you know, just give us a little bit of a share. Just, you know, just a bit of engagement and share. Like, thank you.
And look, I honestly, I appreciate that more than someone sending. I would appreciate that more than someone sending me $100, like a share, you know, because it's getting our stuff out there. It's getting our voices out there in order to put these out to the world. But Alicia, the heart space. Where do you see the heart space going in regards with you and Jazz? Obviously, it is growing. It's not something that takes off overnight, but you guys are putting in the work and putting in that groundwork to make it grow. Where do your visions, maybe between the both of you, where do you guys see the heart space going, and what direction? Well, not really what direction, but where do you want to take it? Like what will come of what you're doing as such?
I think by our perseverance of what we're doing, and what we have been doing, yeah, we're small now, but I do feel that eventually, might not be next year, might be the year after, I don't care. I'm committed to the Heartspace for the long haul. I think eventually people were going to not need us as such, but need something to turn to. How do I put it? Not everybody can see what's in front of them at this stage, and that's perfectly fine. We touch on the things now, but they in the future they can come to our space, to the Heartspace, and look at that. And so I guess that we're just leaving a blueprint, or leaving an imprint there at the moment. And what I do is I see us growing, like, to the point that with the connections that we've made with the people that we interview, like yourself, Wade, you know, just everyone on this journey, I feel like we're just going to come together in some which way and build something amazing together and separately. We're all going to be doing our individual mahi, but there's something big that's coming and I can feel it. So yeah, definitely. So yeah, I feel like we're going to grow. We're looking at going onto other platforms and expansion, and Jazz and I have always got ideas coming up. Hey, like, we've always got ideas, and we're like, cool, let's park that for now, let's just keep doing what we're doing, because like every step that we're doing is going to build to that greater big thing. So yeah,
that's part of the journey too, is there's always something happening, there's always new fuckery happening, and what we're hoping sorry
no, go hard.
What I essentially see happening is a lot of the people that woke in 2020, they know all the stuff that Alicia and I are discussing. What we're hoping is to catch that next wave of people that it's going to hit, because it does happen in waves, these awakening. And I've had just recently in the past 2 weeks, people just asking me questions, and you know, people that I just wouldn't even think would catch on, you know, and that shocked me. And they've asked about the podcast. Oh, what do you speak about? And it's like, oh, I don't know what to say, because I don't want to scare them off. So I always tend to stick, because we do touch on the spiritual side of the awakening, because as we've come to know, there not only has been like this awakening to the corruption happening around the world, we're awakening to, you know, the spiritual war that we're in, and our own spirituality. We're waking
up to ourselves,
our true power.
I just want to say that's another thing. This is what I love about the Heartspace, is that Jazz and I have been going through, and we have these one-on-one catch-ups, and we record them and post them on our channel. It's just where are we at now? Like, I know that I can watch the very first couple of episodes that I did with Jazz, and then I can look at where I'm at now, and I feel like I've grown so much as a person. So it's kind of a nice way to look back and see how far I've come on my journey, on my own self journey, like, you know, diving into who I am, and starting to remember who the fuck I am. You know, and I think just being open, raw and honest. You know, I think Jazz and I did an episode, and I said I haven't been doing too good lately, because at the end of the day, we are podcast hosts, but we are still, you know, we're still human, we're spiritual beings, have a human experience, so we go through these waves, and sometimes we ain't okay, and that's okay. And it's and that's what, like, I want the people that watch our podcast, is that it's okay, it's normal to feel these highs, these lows. 100%. Totally.
You're correct, because the way, like, I try and explain it to everyone, the way, like, you just look at the way a sound wave moves, or an energy wave moves, or a light wave moves, they all move like this. They go up and down, and they go up and down. So the way humanity works is that we're going to go up, have these ups, and we're going to have these downs, but we've just got to try and find that balance in the middle, where we can try and keep as flat as we can through the middle of it, and find that balance. But that's what you guys are doing with the Heartspace, I feel, is that you are finding a balance. Like, you know, you have me on there, for instance, fucking everything under the sun, and then you've got someone with the spiritual side of things, you know, talking about, you know, even you had that lady on earlier talking about all the female stuff and things like that. Sorry, I can't get a name off the top of my head. But you have a good mix, and that's what I intended to do with Waydes World as well, was to create that mix so that, you know, I've asked fucking people to come on my show, and they're like, oh, you know, I don't really talk about what you talk about, bro. And I'm like, have you listened to the podcast? And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, then you don't even understand what I talk about, because my podcast isn't all conspiracies and fucking, you know, about New Zealand and that. It's about people's journeys, because at the end of the day, that's what is actually more important out of this whole thing, is the individual journeys that have got people to where they've got to. And that's why I appreciate the work that you guys do with Heartspace and bringing that to fruition, because there's a lot of stories out there to be heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not only that, people are always asking, what can I do? And realistically, all you can do is become the best version of yourself at this point in time, and really work on your inner being, so that your light projects out to the world and inspires others. And, you know, that's what I wanted to do with this podcast too, is just by being raw and open and authentic, show people that, you know, there's different sides to not just us, but to everyone, that we are allowed to embrace. And just going through the podcast and my awakening, I just learned of, you know, new terminologies, just like the words shadow work and empath. And by learning these new words, I've just learned so much about myself that makes sense. And then all these pieces, you know, we're like this jigsaw puzzle that's been scattered to the wind, and we're just putting those pieces back together essentially. So that's what I want to just encourage people today is, you know, if you are feeling a bit lost in this journey, if you are feeling fearful, take back your power and just, you know, switch off the news, switch off the noise, and really just go within and focus on yourself and what really makes you happy.
Yeah. I have to say as well, like, you know, I heard about shadow work is like shadow self. This has been a big thing for me this year without realizing it. Like, we did a podcast, we did an episode on shadow work, literally because I had just found out who my shadow was 2 days before that. I was like, holy I was like, holy shit, this is the dark side of me. All right, let's go. So then we touched on it, and that's what the cool thing is. It's like, you know, we're not all perfect. That's just like, that word perfect is just, I don't even like that word. You know, we, like Jazz said, we are all, there's all sides of us, there's all different sides of us, and it's learning to embrace and accepting who we are. And, you know, it's okay to not like certain parts of yourself, but that's where you start working on what do you want to make better? What's working for you? What's not working for you? All right, do the work.
Yep.
That's it. You know?
Exactly.
And, yeah, and so like connecting with like-minded individuals as well, I guess this has helped me a lot on my journey, not only just waking up to the fuckery we live in, the matrix, but on the spiritual journey as well, like a spiritual awakening, and I would dare say I'm in the depths of it now, like really, like layers and layers and layers are coming off. But yeah, so oh yeah, no, go.
No, sorry. But yeah, I guess, you know, Alicia, with you, we'll pop back to you straight away on this one. But, you know, because I know that, you know, obviously I met you outside Jacinda's office on a very rainy day, protesting outside there, and I know that you've done a bit of protesting, you know, throughout the last couple of years. But I want to ask both of you guys as well, is as much as protesting is hard, what's been the actual hardest part of this whole awakening for both of you? Like, what's been the most hardest part to get through, or to get over, or to see through, or anything like that?
Well, I think for me personally, it was learning about the child trafficking and adrenochrome. That really, I think that was what got the ball rolling for me with wanting to speak out, was what was happening to children. You know, 800,000 children go missing a year, and they're unaccounted for. What's happening to them? And that really triggered me. I've got young children, and it was an insult to the soul, I think. And I think a lot of people felt this, and you know, I know that there are people that were awake for years that knew about the politics and the media side of things, but they were even hit hard by the child trafficking side of things. And, you know, I won't get too deep into it, but that's essentially where it started for me, is just that pain. I kind of went through a grieving process, you could say, of learning this and uncovering it. And then not long after I watched the Fall of the Cabal documentary, the Outer Shadows documentary followed, which kind of confirmed all the horrendous stuff that we learned in the Fall of the Cabal. And I was just like, oh gosh, like someone has to speak out now, you know. And that's what really, like, it pissed me off, to be honest. I was extremely pissed off, and in a lot of my first videos I was just raving, you know, just letting out my anger, I guess, and now it's more refined. I managed to tone it down. I've worked through the grief, but yeah, it's just like, that's one thing I think people need to get their heads around, even to this day, even along the conversations of the Queen and her death. You know, Alicia and I just did a podcast episode, The Here and Now. We touched on how we were feeling now, as well as what just happened with the Queen passing and all that jazz. And I had someone in the comments just say, well, you know, where's your evidence about, you know, the royal family? And I was like, have you not seen what happened with the Jeffrey Epstein case? Like, that alone is known. So it's just like, you're just dumbfounded, and you just got to ignore. Like, as soon as I see that, because that was actually on my Facebook page, I'm like, okay, I end up blocking these people because they just don't quite get it, you know, and I just don't want them in my energy space, I guess. But yeah, so essentially that's how this whole journey started for me, was with the child trafficking and the adrenochrome, which really got the ball rolling, and I felt the need to speak out.
Yeah, it's a big, the whole child trafficking and well, even the whole human trafficking in general is something that a lot of people just have they just can't grasp the concept that
if it's not
people would do
them
this.
or their children, it doesn't exist. It doesn't matter. It's not real.
Yeah. And what I tell people is, we all know that human trafficking isn't a conspiracy theory. Do you know what I mean? So I think what people can't get their heads around is the people that we have been growing to look up to and, you know, inspired to are the ones, the culprits. They're the ones, the abusers. They're the ones organizing these rings. And that's what people can't quite get the grasp of. We saw a hint of it with the Epstein case, but that's just the tip of the iceberg, really.
Yep, and then you've got the Epstein case there too, which, you know, now all the files of that have been locked away. Like, one thing for me, I always said, is like, why aren't people outraged that no one's come out? Like, we know the people that are involved in it. The fucking document's been leaked before, but because it's a conspiracy theory, no one wants to, you know, no one will even look into it. But all those cases were actually they were put into a vault in 2017. So it's been a while.
And it comes down to people's attention spans too. Like, I think a lot of the world has moved on since then, and it's on to the next distraction.
Yep, I think you're also correct in saying that too. Everything's a quick 5-minute thing, and it's over and done with, and that goes back to, you know, what was it, Vines? Let's go back to the Vines that used to come out online, and they were that's what started cutting everyone's concentration down, because everyone started making 10-second videos. Yeah,
true. And I used to feel really frustrated watching Vines, because I'm like, fuck, it's too short.
Yeah.
Like, stop doing that. Like,
but now it's the opposite. Something's too long.
Yeah.
Wow. Penny John.
So that is part of their plan, and that is why, you know, when everyone also stands there and says, "Oh, we've been fighting the shadow war with memes," no, you haven't. Like, the CIA created memes in order for their outcome. Like, you know, so it's like people don't tend to dig as much as they need to at times, but, you know, each their own. I'm not telling everyone that they need to jump down every single rabbit hole. You don't need to be like me and fucking, just jump down everything that you see. But at the same time, we just sort of need a better understanding of the world as a whole, don't we?
Yeah, 100%.
Well, see, that's where I was going to touch on. See, like I was going to take it. I'm going to take a different, like, sort of avenue from what Jazz has just spoken about. Like you mentioned about, you know, besides the protesting and all that, what's been challenging and all that kind of stuff. What's been challenging for me is the fucking media and people fucking falling for the media narrative, even though it clearly contradicts itself. The media contradicts itself. They're obvious as fuck, like, you know, of what they're doing, but are they obvious as fuck just because I now know and see? Or it's like, you know, we've been trying to tell people. I remember I used to go hearty in the in the media comment like section. Like I would spend literally hours a day like scoping out and then fucking like, you know, just trying to wake people up, just trying to give them a different view of, you know, what's actually happening. But it wasn't until I think it was the day that Wade, I met you outside Jacinda's office, and also the Green Lane protest, where I fully saw for myself how the media literally flipped the script. I knew that they did that beforehand, but to actually be present in a situation and see what the media had written afterwards, it made me angry. Like this made me furious. And I think this is something that I've battled with like throughout this journey is the bloody media. Like it's like really they are the front of the issue and what guides everybody's thoughts, opinions and everything. It creates a division. It's actually a real big problem still. I've learned to let go though, not so like I see headlines. Sometimes I still feel triggered. I'm like, oh, you fuckers. And I just want to go on and comment, but sometimes I'm like, you know, it's not even worth it. Like people are going to wake up at their own time. Some people are not going to wake up and see it. And I've come to that full acceptance now. Like it just is what it is. Yeah.
And I agree with that too. You know, like I was the same, you know, it's, you know, I've been trying to wake people up for 20 years, you know, since I was about 14 years old and realizing that something wasn't right. And, you know, when I got to 2020, exactly the same. The media was a trigger for me because I would sit there and I'd be like, you're full of shit, you know, like just yelling at the TV. And it doesn't get you anywhere. Like it really doesn't get anyone anywhere. But it's about re-educating the people around you about the media. Like I've had a few comments in regards to the media of being like, oh, you know, we need to go back to pre-2020 when they weren't telling us, you know, propaganda and lies. Well,
but they always have been.
Correct.
Operation Mockingbird. Hello.
Correct.
I used to work with a lady because I owned a cleaning business, and one of my colleagues or one of the ladies that I hired, she was deeply into the stuff that we're speaking about now. And this was it would have been like 2018. About 2018. And we'll be driving and she'll be pointing out the chemtrails and talking about the media. And I just thought she'd lost the plot or something. And it wasn't until my own awakening in 2020 that I reconnected with her and we had these discussions. And like, I'm just so grateful, you know, I'm a big believer in like, you know, God, source, a higher power, planting you where you need to be and surrounding you with the people that are meant to help you at this time. Because I have got a few good people around me with where I live that are completely awake to everything, and that because you need those people. It's so important to be able to you know, talk about the things we do, because I find it really hard to have mundane everyday conversations with my old friends that are still asleep. Like and I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's the most fakest conversation I've ever had. Like I feel disgusted with myself, you know, because I just feel so fake when I just want to be, you know, vent about the Queen or something, you know. So it has been trialing, it has been taxing on friendships, but I've met this whole new soul tribe, I think, like a lot of us have, and we come together, and that's been really helping me get through these like tougher times.
For sure.
I think you're right. You're very right there. Over the last 2 years, it has really showed who's your true friend and who's just someone that was also there just to because they wanted to be there, you know, like and then once you started talking out, you start to find out who was truly your friend and who would stand in your corner no matter what your opinion. So I think that's what you touched on then is something that a lot of people have felt throughout this last 2 years.
Yeah, even with your own family, like I remember having my family on board at first, but I think it was when Trump didn't become the president that everyone was like, oh, she's just too gone crazy, because I was telling everyone, you wait, he's going to get in. It didn't happen. So then everyone was on board with me until that happened. So, but who knows what's going to happen next? And that's, I guess, we can, throughout this journey, we've watched other people speak out and try to predict things and predict dates and whatnot. But what I've learned is you just got to go with the flow of it. You can't, none of this is really predetermined. And we just got to enjoy the ride.
See, I want to touch on that. Yes, the date thing. Now, I used to be like heavy on that. Like, I'm like, yeah, right, the 10 days of darkness.
Yeah.
Right, it's coming. And I'm like,
every time the internet would cut off.
Like we've got a date that's actually very, very big at the moment. There's a lot of people talking about the 24th.
Of September? Yes, my husband's been going on about that.
So there's a lot of theories as to what's going to happen. You know what? I'm going out doing my thing on the 24th, and whatever the fuck happens, because I am so sick of like standing around and waiting. And I know it sounds really, really terrible, but it's like the boy that cried wolf, like eventually, when it happens, I'll be like, oh shit, there it is. But I'm not going to stop and sit in a panic fest, like, and not live and enjoy what's around me, because whatever happens. It's going to happen. Everything that's happening has to happen.
Everything that's happened in history had to happen in order to get us into this spot as well. Exactly. 24th and 9th, I saw you jump onto a live I was doing just before. That's why I jumped on the live to speak on the 24th and 9th. So just a quick one, anyone out there that believes something's going to happen on the 29th needs to go back and rewatch that video. It's cut and chopped up. It's a 6-month-old video that's talking about the Ukraine war in 2020, not in fucking 2022. So yeah. So I always say when people give dates, when even celebrities or these elites give warnings, always take heed to the warning. Understand it. You've heard the warning, which means that, okay, if something happens, that something, that this was set up by them, or it was part of their global agenda, because you've heeded the warning. You understand what's coming towards you. But don't stop your life for something that they want to do.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter. You can walk outside your front door, trip over your front doorstep and die.
Anything can happen.
I totally get it. No, that's it.
Don't give up your life in order to sit waiting for those dates when time is man-made anyway. If anything's going to happen, it'll happen under divine timing. It will happen, but when it happens, it happens.
Yeah, exactly.
That's sort of where I sort of stand.
Don't give your power away too.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
100%. So, from here on out, now, if we're looking at coming towards the end of 2022, we're 2022 is flowing by. We've only got not even 3 months left anymore of 2022. It's gone so quickly. Heartspace for 2023. What do you guys see for the future? Obviously, we spoke about where you want it to go, but what do you guys see in the near future for yourselves as you build this road or this journey or lay this path on the way out?
I think like I said before, like things just keep happening, and there's this whole map of, when you look at the awakening map and everything that branches off the Great Awakening itself, there's so many topics that Alicia and I can cover that I feel like we could just go on and on and on. We haven't really had a break apart from when we've been sick, and this week we've decided to take the week off, but we're very passionate about it. And like I said, there's new fuckery that keeps happening. for instance, the Queen just passing, like we were just like, we need to get on and we need to express our thoughts on that, and get an episode done like that. And we're also, you know, we've also expanded to these super panel discussions too, which has been a really interesting dynamic. And Wade has been a part of that too. And we got really good feedback from that. The first volume, we're doing it in volumes. This is where these super panel discussion episodes are separate from our other episodes where we have one-on-one interviews with ourselves and our guests.
And it's a recap of what's happened within that month. So for the volume 2, we'll be looking at what's happened in the month of September, which there's been a lot. So that's going to be a cool one. I can't wait for that one.
Especially if shit goes down on the 24th too, like there will be. Hopefully we'll still have internet access then.
No, I see. We're starting to brand ourselves now. So we've got an Instagram page up and running. Starting to get like things more in a how do I put it? It's just we have a certain day where video episodes are released. We're doing things on certain days. We're sticking to our schedule on how things are rolling out. And so we're just always thinking expansion, and also like I didn't like marketing. I didn't realize I'd like that so much. But hey, it's a newfound thing. Like, so I do the Instagram page and I thoroughly enjoy it. I put together our promo videos. I thoroughly enjoy it. Something I never saw that I'd be doing when I first started co-hosting this the Heartspace podcast. But I fully love that. And so yeah, we're starting to market ourselves. We're starting to brand ourselves. But see, I still see this isn't for us. This is for everybody else.
Yeah. We don't do this for the clout.
No, that's just it. Like, you know, this is for
humanity.
Setting the foundation. We're setting the foundations, and I think like good things take time.
Yes.
And over the time, like honestly, I've said things in episodes. I'm just like, holy shit, I shouldn't have said that, or that came out wrong. And so I'm learning how to. I'm just learning more about myself, the way I talk, expanded vocabulary, like just all these sorts of things. And I think just by doing this together, we're learning who we are, who we are, learning more about ourselves. So yeah, expansion, branding, and basically just providing that space for people along this journey to jump on board with us, jump on an episode, share their story, and so on and so forth, and what have you.
I remember our first guest that we had on too was a guy called Lucas Mack, who is a TEDx speaker, and I've emailed random people and just whoever latched on, and
she's had the best of luck. I'm actually really, really shocked. Like when she said Lucas Mack was going to come on, I was like, oh yeah, had a look. I'm like, holy shit, like he actually responded.
He's a professional speaker. And watching us talk back, like, because that was our very first interview, I was so nervous, like, and I can see the nerves when I watch myself back, and because of like he had a very extended vocabulary, because that's what he does as a living. And I remember messaging him and feeling inspired, and I was just like, you know, how do we get to your, you know, where you're at? And he said, just keep practicing, sister. So that's what we've been doing. We've been getting to work. We've been meeting other people. We've got some other awesome guests lined up, you know, that we're hoping to get on in the near future. And I just want to tell everyone to watch this space, because, yeah, like I said, we've got some awesome guests lined up, and things are just going to keep, you know, happening. And we've just got to stay on top of things, I guess. And I get what is good about us, you know, the people that are speaking out at this time, is we're counteracting what is being put out in the media. So, you know, the media will release a story, and then here we are, we jump in, we're the interceptors, and we're like, hey, but what about this? You know, we're holding them accountable, you know, and these fuckers do need to be held accountable at this time. They really do, with all the lies and, you know, deceit that's being put out there. And I'm hoping people catch on. I hope people are listening. I hope people are doing their research, because you need to, you know, essentially not just listen to what we're saying, but do a bit of research on your own. Take some accountability for the knowledge that you hold.
Yeah.
You couldn't have said that any better. That is something that a lot of people really do need is to take accountability.
Yeah.
Take responsibility,
We've gotten too complacent, and they've really banked on that, the media, and then we've got the government saying, or Jacinda saying she's our only source of truth. It's like, no, I call bullshit on that.
As soon as you have you're a politician, say that you're your bloody leader, that's fucked. Like, wouldn't that make anyone go, oh, hang on, that's a bit fucked up, I'm going to go just, look at some other things? Because why would you say that? Why are you trying to convince us so much? Like
100%.
Naturally, you'd think that would create a little red flag.
Yep. No, everyone's still waving the green flag for Jacinda. They were for a long time. Yeah, I remember when she went in what was it, 2016 or was it 17? One of the 17. I remember I was still in Aussie at the time, and everyone was messaging me and they're like, oh, we just want to vote for Jacinda to get her in. It looks like it's going to be something good. And I was like, you don't vote her in. She's going to be the worst thing that ever happens to New Zealand. Nah. And
well, what do you know?
Here we are now.
Back in 2017, I wasn't even into politics. I didn't even understand half. I didn't care. I was I was living in the Matrix, basically. I was doing my course and everything, but I didn't care what the hell was going on. But I was starting to question, why the fuck aren't we allowed to use plastic bags at the supermarket anymore? And yet everything else that they give us is in the supermarket is plastic. I was like, what the hell? And then she started taking all these little bits, and I started going, well, this is a bit, what's going on here? I want to, but yeah, it was just slowly but surely I started. I mean, I did wake up before 2020, but that was my full on headlights on, kaboom.
Boom.
But yeah, no, just it's really interesting. This journey is amazing. I wouldn't change it for the bloody world. I went through the whole grieving process. I was angry as fuck. People thought I lost it. I probably did lose it for a little bit there. I did, the child trafficking, that shit, all of it. I think I'm quite desensitized to it now, so I can just talk about it it's just whatever. But because I've been doing this day in and day out, I am desensitized to it, which I think is kind of maybe the best place to be, because now I can take the full emotion out of it, because I think that's what was driving me into these freaking brick walls and I was acting out and I was saying really horrible things to people, and I'm not there anymore. I'm in a calm space.
You're in a heart space now, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly.
But what I was actually going to say there too as well was, now that we're at 2022, now we're in September of 2022, we've just had the traffic light system removed and everyone's jumping up and down for joy. Do you think it is a time that we should be celebrating right now?
Absolutely not. I think the past, since 2020, so the past 2 years have been, I guess, conditioning us to be more susceptible to a social crediting system. I think that's where we're heading to now. And I feel like some big event, this is just my theory, don't take it for truth, we're just speculating here, is that now the focus is off COVID and they're going to be focusing on, driving the prices up, driving us into even higher inflation, crashing the whole system, and then turning around to us and saying, oh, well, those who aren't vaccinated won't be getting a social crediting system score. That's just where I think I'm heading, just with this, all the signing in and the out, in and out of stores and the scanning and whatnot. I feel like that is what they have been analyzing, I guess, over the past 2 years. Yeah. And
who's good and who's bad? Who's gonna start, who's not?
Who's the sheep and who's the leaders, I guess.
I think it was awfully coincidental that the Queen gets announced dead and then traffic lights back to whatever the fuck, and mandates dropped and everything. It's very telling to it. I guess if you're awake and you see it, it's very telling. The whole last 2 years was all was just the biggest psychological operation, and like basically just on our psyche as well. Everything that we've been saying, like, you know, that is coming, it's still coming. People think that it's all lifted and everybody's like, oh, you know, let's fucking skip down Mary Lane and we're happy and blah, blah, blah.
We survived.
You know what? That's nothing compared to what's about to come. And that's, and I say that like in a really like scary way, but like, I don't mean to, but like, that was just the first part, like, and that was it was hard, but now we're going to see a lot of shit happen. And it's I don't want to put fear out there, but
I hope I'm wrong. Yeah, like that's just where, just from listening to other people speak and watching, you know, the market and hearing, because I've got a husband who's crypto mad, and he says the same thing in terms of the social crediting system. And I try not to feed into it because of the fear, you know. Essentially, they've used us because we're powerful manifestors, and by programming us and conditioning us with, you know, the media they put out there, they've been using our thoughts to create their reality. So that's when I said to my husband, I actually just said to him this morning, I said, you know, I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I don't choose to feed into that fear, because I could see panic in his eyes. I just said to him, like, we've just got to keep focusing on us, because they've been using our, you know, manifesting powers for years, keeping us dumb to this, because a lot of us don't even know we are powerful manifestors, and just keep on focusing on the vision, that, you know, positive vision, bringing the light to the world. And that is what is ultimately going to hopefully usher in the new age, because essentially we've got this new world order agenda over here, we've got the new age, the light, the age of light, the age of Aquarius on the other side here, and it's just this, like, the spiritual wall, you know. And psychological in some sense, because we've got the media feeding us bullshit, and then we've got people like us. There's so many of us, though. That's what keeps me hopeful, counteracting that. And there's just, hopefully there's this balance that takes place, and we end up somewhere where we're okay, you know, in the middle of that, and we're okay. Humanity is okay. We see what's coming, and essentially, you know, put a halt to it. But like I said, at the moment, I'm just going with the flow. There's not much I can do.
Best place to be.
Yeah.
Best place to be, and you guys have both been correct too as well, in saying about, you know, about the fear mongering going out there, but at the same, like, I will just add on to that as well, is that you know, for someone like what me and you guys do, we're not actually trying to fearmonger, we're just trying to give people the information that is coming. We're not fearful of what's coming. I know, for instance, when you two find something out, you're not fearful of what is happening. You just learn to understand it, and to say, okay, well, if this does happen, then we've got to do this, this, and this to make sure that we're okay over on this side, rather than falling to the, you know, to the shit down the bottom. That's where I seem to, you know, where people get the difference of fear mongering to us just trying to give them the information.
I've been told so much, like, especially on my TikTok, oh, shut up, you're just trying to put people in fear, like you and your conspiracies. And I'm like, they're like, oh God, it must be so horrible living in that fearful state. And I'm like, oh, the irony of that comment. Like, oh my gosh. You know, and those comments alone used to be really triggering, and now I just don't even respond. Why bother? Just keep moving forward. And that is essentially it. It's maybe at first, me speaking out was coming out of a place of fear. Of course, I was scared. What the fuck would I want all of this shit to happen, you know? And I'm like blaming people, like, you're the problem because you're not waking up and blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, if you're not standing with us, you are like defeating the enemy. So you are the enemy. And that was where I was at. And I actually admit that I was saying that shit even last year. I've had a huge expansion of growth this year. I'm not there anymore. I'm not in that mindset. But, you know, it essentially just comes up to us individuals and what we choose to do with this information that we have. And we're choosing to that's all it is. It's just planting the seeds and creating the awareness. People used to say to me, oh, well, you can't change the world. What are you going to do? You can't do that on your own. Like, just let it go. Like, and I'm like, well, actually, and it's funny because we're 2.5 years in or whatever, and I actually have had quite a few messages from people that have been watching me over the last couple of years that have known me prior to all of this, and they said, oh shit, like, I think you're actually onto something, or everything you said, well, not in an egotistical way, but everything you've sort of put out there is actually coming in to fruition, like it's actually happening. And so, you know, for me, that's like, fuck, my work is done. Like, it's not done, but it's
people
all this hard work, putting up with all the abuse and everything, it's worth it when it's reaching some people, at least. That's it, you know, because a couple more people waking up, that's amazing, because then they start waking other people up and so forth. And that's what I see has happened, and we're shifting consciousness massively.
Yep. You were that rock in the water. You were the rock that someone threw in the water and started the ripple. That's that's the gist of it. Your ripple will be more effective on the world than you will ever think. Like, and I think that's one of the big things that I've had to realize is that, you know, a lot of people say to me, and you know, oh, you helped me out with this and this and this, and I don't see it like that. You know, I don't see the things that ripple out, and you won't see the things that you do that ripple out. And same with you, Jazz, the things that you do that ripple out, you won't see the effects of it, because you're just naturally being who you are and releasing that information, and that I guess that the tension also within you to release it out, and telling everyone that, hey, look, this may happen, this is going to happen, blah blah blah, and people look at you sideways, you know, like you said, for the last couple of years, and then fuck, 2 years later, that's your ripple still going out there. You know, that's your ripple still doing work. And like, again, you guys said about the podcast, you're laying the blueprint. You know, you may not be getting thousands and thousands of views right now, but give it another 6 months, give it another 12 months. Your first video is going to have as much fucking views as your last video does, because everyone's wanting to go back and see how much you've been speaking about over the last 2 years. So, you know, that's another thing. It's always about laying the groundwork, and that's what you guys, what we've done, what people like me and yourselves have done over the last 2 years, is start to lay that groundwork and lay that concrete path for people to follow us to walk out of it.
Yeah,
that's what I said to Alicia when we first started. I said, you know, there's not many women speaking out at the moment in New Zealand. So I said, like, you know, we could be the pioneers essentially of this type of movement, where we're overtaking the media, you know, and creating our own media, and having another narrative, you know, we're alternative news, you could say, and another avenue that people can steer to where things just don't feel quite right. Yeah. And it all comes down to that intuition and how in touch you are with yourself, because people are wising up. Like within my own community, we've got hubs set up where people are connecting and utilizing their skills. So they've got like doctors within the hubs, they've got people that know about growing vegetables, IT, all different professions. My mother-in-law, because she's super awake and she's involved in this hub, and I've gone to a couple of meetings with her, and yeah, I think people are prepping. They see what's coming, and, you know, so essentially they'll be independent and they'll be able to trade off one another, and avoid the social, you know, if we do go into some type of social crediting system. So, you know, I know that I've got to find out the name just so anyone watching is interested, because anyone can join as long as you have some type of skill to offer, even if it's your garden, you know. I absolutely suck at gardening. It's a skill I have to learn. I'm terrible.
There's a lot of skills out there I think we all got to learn, isn't there? There's a lot of stuff that we've just relied on. Yeah, we've just relied on the system for, and now we're going, oh, fuck, hang on. Shit, we've got to learn how to do all that.
It's really eye-opening how much we rely on the system. Like, there's things that I'm like, oh, I'll just do, oh, wait. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Like, wow. I really need to go straight back to basics, and that is the one thing that I'm and I'll be honest, I'm not quite ready for that yet, like, but I have to start.
I'm like that too. I know I have to, but it's just starting there. I haven't started yet.
Yeah.
But it's also something like I'm just going to mention this from what you've been saying too, is that, you know, people think that everything in this world is going to be destroyed and we have to go back to living in the bush. Like,
no,
it's not going to happen that way. You have to realize that all these houses are here already. They can't destroy fucking everything.
Yeah.
You know, the infrastructure that is run in the cities, in the countries, the infrastructures aren't run by government. They're run by everyday people.
Yeah.
You know, who wakes up in the morning to go and fix the power line that's fallen down? Fucking, you know, Joe Smith from down the road, who works for the electrical company. He gets up in the morning, goes down the road and fixes that. The government doesn't come down and fix it. You know, They don't wake us up in the morning and tell us to go to work. They are not doing anything like that. They are just there as the head of states, supposed to be able to talk to other international governments and make deals that are good for New Zealand. But obviously, you know, we know what they do. But at the end of the day, we're not going to fall down and completely self-destruct and have to go to live in the bush. I think the infrastructure is going to be more there. They will try and destroy things. Don't get me wrong on that. They're going to go out with they're going to throw the kitchen sink and everything when they fall out there. They're going to throw their toys out of the cot. But we just have to expect that. And then when that happens, I
see myself in a little cabin or cottage with nice green grass and just like, you know, just doing me, man.
Yep,
and
absolutely.
By that point, I know how to do veggie gardens.
Well, just last year too, I was one of those people that was telling my husband, let's sell up and, you know, go into the bush and get a tiny home and all that. Like, I was completely freaking out. But then as things have progressed, you know, it's like, no, like, you know, I'm not going to uproot my children, you know, and I get it's part of giving into their bullshit too, eh? But I think it has been a big eye-opener for a lot of people. Like, you see a lot of people moving out of the cities too.
Totally. Well, I don't want to live in a smart city.
Yeah.
I did. I moved out of Auckland.
I know.
Yeah.
Good move. I'm still stuck in the city.
Do you love that? You love being out of Auckland now?
Honestly, I was an 09er through and through. Like, fuck everyone else. I'm from Auckland. Like, I don't care. You can call us fucking Jaffers all you want. The moment I moved out of Auckland, left to Bombay, I was like, fuck you, Jaffers. You can have it. Like, keep it. I don't want it anymore. And like now when I visit Auckland, I'm like, how do you Aucklanders deal with this shit? Like,
I don't know. We just
like even the traffic, the traffic. 1 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon, I'm trying to get the fuck out of Auckland, and I'm in bumper to bumper traffic on a Sunday.
Like, literally, you have to plan your whole day. So if I've got to be somewhere, I'm like, right, got to get ready. Got to get the car, get there, about an hour and a half. Okay, cool. That's like pretty much half my day gone just to get to that fucking destination and then back.
Yeah.
Like, it's shocking here. It's shocking. I don't know. I mean, I've lived in Auckland all my life. This is, born bred. This is how we roll here. But, you know,
I've adapted to my small town vibes here.
Yeah.
I'm originally from Auckland. I grew up in Manurewa, not in the hood. Everyone thinks there is a nice part of Manurewa. Not that I'm ashamed of the hood. A lot of my friends are from the hood, but I was near like the Gardens End. And so I like you said, Wade, I've been away from Auckland for 5 years, but every time I go back, I haven't been back for like a good year. But you the infrastructure everywhere that there was land is now houses, and it's just chaotic. So condensed. You feel caged in, and even like me and my partner went to the mall, and it's just a man eats man world. People don't give a shit about you. There's no here in Rotorua, people are slowed down. They look you in the eye, they say hello to you. Like here it's just like it's all about the clout. It's like the gears you're wearing, and you know, people look like I had so many women giving me the evils, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, you know, I'm just trying to go about my day. It's crazy. It's just a different mindset.
When I went down to Woodville for about a month, now that was like a shock to my system, but I can tell you, like, after about a week or so being there, my brain fog gone. Like I was thinking clearly, like my energy levels were better. Everything was fine. And the beautiful thing is like you just wear some gumboots and track pants and just like whatever down the shop, and like no one gives a shit, and people do talk to you. Everyone is calmer, everyone's slower, and I'm like, oh, I love this. And then like come back to Auckland, I'm like, oh god, like, you know, like the brain fog started again, energy levels like, and I've been like this ever since. And yeah, like, but I still rock the whole, you know, I don't give a shit, trackies, like sock slides, like I don't care, like look at me all you like. I'm comfortable.
You're comfortable in who you are. That's why you're comfortable in who you are. But you know, like I've got mad love for Auckland. I'll never ever not love Auckland. You know, where I'm from on the North Shore over in Beachhaven there, you know, like I'd never fucking turn my back on that place. I know where I come from. I know who made me a man. And that's something that I'll never forget. But the way that Auckland is right now, I don't want to be part of that. And that's just what it is, you know. And I've been lucky enough to be able to get out and get down south, down to Taupo for, you know, for a few months now, and then we'll probably be heading north after that. So where I eventually want to lay my head, which will be north of Auckland. So you know, it's one of those things, isn't it? It's these big cities are turning into smart cities. But anyway, we'll look at probably wrapping this one up now, but I do want to get some positive vibes off you guys. I love to end with something positive rather than, you know, going all talking about all the bad that's happening. You know, as much as people need to hear it, we know that people need to hear it, but I like to end on something positive. So each of you, if you've got something that you would like to leave the viewers with and to leave them even thinking about, would love to hear your last words. That's it from Alicia. That's all she's got. That's it. No more, no less. That is it. Ooh.
Should I go?
Yeah, if you want to kick her off while she's laughing in the corner there, you can go hard.
Well, firstly, I just want to say thank you to Wade and the work you've been doing and the many times you've graced us on our, you know, with your presence on our podcast. You've really added to, you know, value to the podcast with the information that you bring. And I just want to just say thank you to the work you do because it's so important. I am like so appreciative to everyone out there, including yourself, that is speaking out right now. And I just want to encourage the viewers, like I said earlier in the interview, is, you know, really go take that time to go within, you know, and a lot of, you know, because I'm essentially a spiritual worker, you could say. I do a lot of tarot readings for people. And what I like to tell my clients is the importance of grounding. You know, we get so busy and wrapped up in our lives that, you know, one exercise you could practice in the day, even if it's just hanging out your washing, because that's when I ground. Is when I hang my washing out. I do it in bare feet because the grass is below me, and just that 5 minutes of being present and breathing and just taking in your surroundings as you're doing a simple mundane task as hanging out washing can really transform your day. It's, you know, we're all movers and creators of energy, right? And so as you go about your day and you have these interactions with people, you're collecting, you know, their energy. And it's just a good way to release that. So, you know, I encourage you to do the grounding work, and also journaling is another great exercise too. So take that time out, even if it's 5-10 minutes a day. If you don't like writing, just write some key words down in your journal. And that, you know, because we're telling people go within and, you know, you need to look at yourself. These are just some small exercises to get started. And one last thing is the power of a vision board. Before I've started any of my podcasts, I've actually got one that I started just before we did the Heartspace podcast. Is I created a vision board. So, you know, go online, print out some pictures, find some old magazines and create a vision of where you see yourself in 2 to 5 years, and have that in front of you to, you know, inspire yourself daily. Because, you know, throughout the years, we've been taught to inspire others, be your own source of inspiration going forward. And that's how you really take back your power.
Yeah. Beautiful. I don't think I can follow that.
Well, you're going to have to.
You've got some great ways of debriefing, like
Something
your showers.
Yeah, something positive
Yeah.
I think is that I know that we're going through chaotic times. Things can sometimes look really murky and we can't see what's on the other side, but that's okay because that's a part of the whole thing. There's lots of curves and everything, and I see that there's lots of lessons and teachings and what we're all experiencing right now. So like Jazz said, I was going to say grounding, but she covered that one, so that's awesome. But I actually realized how important grounding is. Like I go walk my dog bare feet now, and I absolutely enjoy it. And I've noticed it's actually really elevated my mood, because I think with what we're doing right now, what we're experiencing, we do take a lot of stuff on. So something positive would be just take time out for you. Allow for those lows and allow for those highs and embrace them both. Because I think the more we try and resist those lows and like, oh, I don't want to feel this way, and keep pushing it away, it keeps coming back louder and louder. Allow yourself to be, take that time out, do what you love doing. And geez, if it's just to wake up in the morning, hold your morning coffee and just breathe in and breathe out that air, just do it. Do what makes you feel good. Because I think it's those small things that we do helps us maintain ourselves along through this journey. Yeah, I'm going to leave it there. Yeah.
And there we have it. Thank you, ladies. Thank you very, very much. So I just want to say thank you to you two for giving me your time. I said at the start, time is most important thing that we do have to give to anyone. So I appreciate you guys giving me your time. And I've enjoyed every podcast I've done with you. I think this was probably number, 3, 4, 5, probably the sixth one I think we've done together now.
I thoroughly enjoy them. I love them.
Yeah, I really enjoy them too. So
Me too.
I'm always there. If you need another voice in there or anything, I'm always there, willing to help. And with anything that you need to help with your guys' podcast and where you need it to go in directions or a hand with anything. Waydes World's not far away, right? It's a message away. So we've all been through the rough stuff. So if there's someone out there that can help get you through, it's easy enough to rely on them. So
awesome.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate all the work you guys are doing too. Keep up the good work, keep that podcast going, because there, like you said, there's not many females out there speaking about it. I know that there's probably you two at the moment still going. And I know my partner Jem, she's still speaking out, going, and there's probably only a couple more females out there that I probably missed a few, so sorry if I missed you. I'm not I'm not bypassing anyone, but thank you guys for everything you do, and please keep up the work and know that you have 110% support. So there's a lot of us out there that's supporting what you guys do. All right. No worries. And last but not least, to everyone out there, I appreciate you guys spending your time with us for the last, I don't know, it's probably about an hour and a bit at the moment. Thank you guys for always coming through and supporting Waydes World, and I appreciate the time that is shown towards Waydes World as well, because without all you guys out there, I won't be able to do what I do. So thank you very much. And last but not least, you're all perfectly imperfect. You are all beautiful and you are all loved. It's a mind game. It's a mind war. As long as we can stay on top of these things and start working together, we're going to get through these. All right. So last but not least, the drill is to go out there, believe in yourself, trust in yourself, and last but not least, go out there and remember who the fuck you are. Because once you go out there and remember who the fuck you are, you take your power back, and there's nothing that anyone can take back from you from there on out. So here on out, we've done and dusted for today. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day, and ka kite for now. Cheer, cheer, whānau.